Welcome to Cyclops is Waiting for Me, an X-Men animated recap podcast with Wolverine and the X-Men, episode 10, Time Bomb.
Nope, I messed up the script.
Oh, it's not time. Wait, wait, what is
I was
this
gonna say,
one
wait,
called?
time bomb?
Which
I
one's
got
this
scared
one?
there for a second.
Well, welcome to Genosha, right? Or no, greetings from Genosha.
There we go.
Greetings from Genosha. Yeah, I had to scroll down my notes.
Yeah,
I'm
you got
Rod.
me scared there. 'Cause I'm like, I didn't watch that episode.
Neither did we.
I'm Rod,
Oh.
and I had the right title in my notes.
It's right on the file. I just messed it up in the script. I'm JC, and if you can't tell, I was the one who put the script together for today's episode. I'm happy to definitely divert attention away from me and introduce our guest, LA's very own Nightcrawler Alain Diaz. Fuck.
You're close. You're so close.
I'm not used to
Hey,
seeing you
everyone.
without a blue face.
I know, right? Most people don't recognize me unless I'm done up and got pointed ears and fangs.
Really?
Yeah. John had to
Honestly,
tell
yeah.
me. John had to tell me right before this, like, oh, you met him as Nightcrawler. I'm like, oh, that dude. Okay, cool.
Oh no, the number of times where I'll meet somebody on the street after a convention and they're just staring at me so hard, going, "Do I know you?"
Right.
And it's just like blue, and then it clicks.
Yeah. You should have one of those like Snapchat filters. It's just like, hey, this guy.
Honestly, yeah. I basically just have like a photo loaded on my phone just in case.
Of just being like, here, this is who you met before.
We've met before.
Yeah. So wanted you to be on because obviously we got to cross paths and meet at Scum and Villainy when they were doing the X-Men 97 screenings, and then like the LA X-Men community, like once you're in it, you see each other at basically everything that is drivable within the LA distance. So
One
knowing
of
you
us.
were-
One of us.
So knowing you were a big Nightcrawler fan, wanted you to, one, since Rod and I are watching this for the first time, I didn't know any episodes of what happens in them and stuff like that. I was like, which episode do you want to do when we were talking at WonderCon a few weeks ago? And you were like, Greetings from Genosha. I'm like, cool, that's in like 2 weeks, so let's get you booked on this.
This is one of those episodes. This one and a later episode with Mojo are like my two favorite Nightcrawler episodes of the. I mean, there's only like
Okay.
3 of them, but still.
Yeah, because
Oh.
we got the first one on the boat with Spiral in that one. So before we get into our whole rigmarole, one, where can people find you?
On most platforms, I'm AM Diaz underscore art or AM Diaz art. So
Right.
Blue Sky, Instagram, technically Twitter, but I barely use that because it's a dumpster fire.
Our podcast is off Twitter, and I haven't logged in 2 years. So
I'm still
I understand.
squatting on the username, but I will not go on to that app.
that's
so.
fair. I have my username everywhere. And also, if you have a recognizable name, you should just do that. Even if you're not going to use the platform, just register. I'm registering like Neptune and a bunch of apps that I don't know if I'm ever going to use, but I just don't want someone else to have it.
Yep. So, gotta ask, why Nightcrawler?
Well, he was one of those characters that, when I first started getting exposed to the X-Men, it was a cartoon series before anything else. I'd seen the comics in stores, but never really paid attention. But at the time, Nightcrawler was not part of the team. He was only a guest appearance in a later season, so I had no idea who this character was, but I started fixating on the X-Men cartoon. Eventually, I decided to buy my very first X-Men comic, which was X-Men 300, or no, Uncanny X-Men 300. It was
Is
this,
that the silver foil cover?
that's the
With,
one.
like, yep.
And the very first page is Nightcrawler teleporting onto this beach, reminiscing about being an X-Man, but having this other team that he's working on. And it was just this really striking appearance, this blue demonic creature who later on Storm comes over and embraces him with the tightest hug, and you just get this feeling that this guy is really beloved. And his design just really spoke to me. So I started trying to research him, and I ended up finding him in Excalibur, and he was this, interestingly, like he was a heroic leader, but he was also just this swashbuckling, suave kind of roguish character who also just had like the biggest heart. Everyone trusted him. He could offer this really sage advice, and there was also just the fact that he was a man of faith. And I'm personally not religious. I don't follow any particular doctrine or anything. But this character who looks like a demon, who honestly probably had one of the most difficult lives you could imagine with that kind of appearance, uh, also had this endless optimism about him. He always believed that uh, good would happen to people who deserved it. He believed in a loving God who cared and did not believe in bigotry and hatred. And it gave him this endless sense of hope that, you know, is honestly lacking with a lot of these characters.
Hmm.
Because so many of them are traumatized and jaded. But Nightcrawler, you know, he's got one of the most complicated family lives you can imagine. He
Keeps getting more complicated every
Oh yeah,
decade of real time too. Yeah.
yeah. It's like every other day. It's like, who do we mess with this year? Is it going to be the Summers, the Wagners, or the Logans? But
It's real.
despite everything, he created this found family for himself. He found a adopted sister, has reconnected with his moms, has one of the most epic bromances with Wolverine, and like I say, it's this character who you would think would be just full of trauma and pain, but truthfully, he's that one character that everyone can rely on. And I just always really love that kind of optimism in this character.
Hmm.
Yeah, I say it all the time. Like, obviously he's written this way, but also like this should serve as an example because like I grew up in the church growing up and stuff. But like Nightcrawler is an example of like he gets out of religion what you're supposed to. Like I feel like a lot of people in real life try to like gain power through systemic religion and stuff, and like Nightcrawler actually enriches his own life and others with religion, which it's like I think I saw someone like post on Threads or something the other day like this is the first time Nightcrawler is making me consider not being agnostic, or no, Nightcrawler is the first person to make me consider not being agnostic. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially all his dialogue in '97.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because that was one thing. It's like, I mean, one thing that always kind of bothers me with certain adaptations of the character is how they make religion his only personality trait.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Because we saw that in the original X-Men cartoon, and I love that version of Nightcrawler. But he was very much like every other line of dialogue was, God is this, God is
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
I was like, okay, honey, take it down a notch.
Yeah.
He also, to your point of what you liked about him, he didn't have
Yeah.
that swashbuckler vibe until '97.
Exactly.
Obviously, we get it. We got it in Wolverine and the X-Men and stuff like that. But like, that was the time where it was like, oh, this version of Nightcrawler became the version that I knew from the comics to the fullest extent. So
Agree, yeah, because even like the X-Men movies, they did the same thing with Alan Cummings' Nightcrawler, and I love Alan Cumming in that role, and I'm so excited for him to come back in the new Avengers movies.
Yep.
But they really made like his fate his primary personality, which I understand. It's you got only so much time to develop these characters, but it's one of those where it's like I like the idea of him being a man of faith, but also having a plethora of other personality traits.
Yeah.
And that's what '97 did. You saw the swashbuckler, you saw the jokester, the playful imp character, but he still was a man of faith and still brought comfort to his friends.
You mentioned Alan Cumming coming back as a Nightcrawler. I think everyone on Earth is excited for him to come back as Nightcrawler, except for Alan Cumming. Because did you see the interview? He was like, "I'm 60 now. That's crazy."
Yeah.
Like,
But he,
Yeah.
but he's doing it,
He's
especially
doing it.
because of the fact that he does not have to do 6 hours of makeup again.
yeah, CG, right?
Yeah, so I think he's just kind of happy about that part, especially. It's like, okay, I'll come back. I don't know why you want me back at this age, but
Yeah.
I'll come back.
I think it's also kind of a sign that a lot of these characters are probably gonna not last very long, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of bracing myself for sadness at some point.
if it's a Battle World convergence story, that's where
Mhm.
it's going to be like a little bit like the end of the animated Crisis DC trilogy they did, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, there's going to be a lot of tears in the last few minutes of this thing.
Yeah, because I'm kind of imagining they're gonna do what like to do with the Crisis events, where they might like wholesale erase the previous versions so they can introduce a new version of it.
Yep. That's my vibe too. But we are not here to talk about Crisis. We're here to talk about the X-Men. So I'm going to get through our rigmarole and let's get into the episode. Cyclops is Waiting for Me is our bi-weekly podcast series. We're going back and watching every single X-Men animated episode that we can find. This podcast started with the original 1992 X-Men the Animated Series, which was building up to the release of X-Men 97. Along the way, we completed the X-Men Evolution run, and we launched our companion interview show, The Xavier Files, which we have to do a reschedule on because of a personal thing, and that's killing me right now, Rod.
Over next week.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. But since we know that Season 2 of X-Men 97 is not coming until 2026, all of this year is dedicated to Wolverine and the X-Men.
And some quick reminders. We're a recap show about a series that started over 15 years ago. There will be spoilers. If you don't want to spoil for you, pause the podcast, watch the episode, come back. Also, don't spoil it for us in the comments. We're currently not sponsored by...
The thumbnails are doing that by themselves,
right.
So...
Yeah, Disney Plus, man. We're currently not sponsored by or affiliated with Marvel Animation, Disney, or Disney Plus in any way.
And finally, don't forget to follow us on social media at Cyclops IWFM Pod on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Facebook, and at the time of the recording, TikTok has not yet been shut down, and Rod has remembered to post all of the Top's Finest card unpackings for me. So.
Now that TikTok has scheduling. Also, we'll see if viewing TikTok is going to be tariffed by the time you see this. Now onto the show. Today we're going to be... I keep thinking nothing's more is possible, and then it just keeps getting crazier. Now onto the show. Today we're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 10, titled Greetings from Genosha. Oh, it was right there.
It's on the screen twice, okay?
It aired
Just
on...
not the most important spot.
It aired on May 29th, 2009. Currently sits at an 8.1 star rating on IMDb. All right, so this one... we see the previously on. Obviously, the previously on shows Genosha, which originally had to do a lot with Kurt because he was on a ship going there, and they recap everything there where he almost they gave him the option to join the X-Men after their adventure there, but he said no. He has a responsibility to all these kind of smuggled mutants to Genosha.
Yeah, it was a refugee ship.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we catch up with them in that we talk about this all the time. Their previously ons don't have a seam going into the new episode. So this one, it continues Nightcrawler staying on the ship. A fog is lifting. And,
with Squid Boy and Pixie in particular.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, the fog is lifting. And they realize they've arrived at Genosha, or right outside Genosha. And then I don't know how else to describe it. It said the ship had turbulence.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll say turbulence.
Yeah, and then crashed on shore, and then once you see the bolts start floating up, you're like, oh, Magneto.
And it wasn't just turbulence. It was it started speeding up, and then it kind of lifted up for a second. So it's obviously Magneto. We know that he's there, but it's that's the worst way to welcome a ship full of people that might be refugees to this location, right?
Yeah, it's such a power move. He's like, look at me, I'm all power. I was like, dude, take it down a notch. Come on. They're already traumatized and all this, and now you're like, we might crash and die.
Yeah. And we also see how he's getting all the metals to build all the stuff in Genosha. It's just a shipping container ship just came by. I'm going to shred it and make stuff out of it.
Yeah, I kind of took that as part of it was him displaying to everyone on the ship that this is a one-way trip.
Mm-hmm.
The ship doesn't go back. But it's weird that he has that kind of Kier on Severance vibe, right? Where he's like, welcome to my paradise. Don't mind that the ship is no longer functional. Then you came on, you can't change your mind now.
And also not even saying hello initially. He just starts tearing the ship apart. And it's okay, because, that's not terrifying or anything.
Yeah.
Yep. I described... as soon as a car decides to stop having a drag race past my window right now, Rod's favorite phrase is that so many of the X-Men are theater kids, and this was theater kid Magneto to a T.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he does kind of sound like Ian McKellen, so...
Also, you know who the voice of Magneto is, the voice actor, right?
God, I'm blanking on him.
It's one of the guys from Critical Role. It's the voice of Vax.
Oh my god, that makes so much sense now.
Right? It's him doing his Ian McKellen impersonation, basically. Yep.
And it's a very good one, too.
It's solid. Yeah, I have zero
Yeah.
complaints on it. I like it better than the Evolution Magneto.
Agreed.
That Evolution Magneto was heavy theater kids. I think that's when it started coming up. We're like, man, what are you, some like theater teacher or something? Yeah.
We're gonna play our favorite game. As our guest, you get to go first because Rod's not gonna have the answer. Name those mutants.
Oh man, I don't remember any.
So we see a few mutants revealed on the cliffs behind Magneto. The obvious one we all know is Pyro. Nobody gets points for getting Pyro. But did you know the other 3 mutants on the cliffside?
All right, so one was Mercury, one of the new Hellions that were during like the early 2000s.
Yep.
One was God. I can never remember the character's name pronunciation. Sakuria, something like that.
Senyaka.
Thank you.
Because when Magneto says it later in the episode, he puts a real emphasis on how he pronounces that name.
It's like I remember seeing that action figure as a kid and going like, I don't know how to pronounce this thing at all.
Yep. And then the character who I put in parentheses on like troll, like I did not recognize that character's name is the least mutant name ever. Seamus Mellencamp. That is his name.
Yeah,
and that is not a random created for the show. That's a canon character from the X-Men world. Seamus
that was a
Mellencamp.
massive deep cut. I remember when I watched this cartoon as a kid going like, what is with this xenomorphic type? What is this thing?
And his name is Seamus.
Yeah, but then Mellencamp is the last name.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Somebody really liked that performer.
Right?
Yeah.
John Mellencamp.
Yeah. Anyway, so then that badass intro starts. We talk about how like the music in the intro is not that memorable, but we like that it kind of recaps this like post-apocalyptic like capture of all the X-Men and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And how they kind of the inciting incident where they all split. But when it comes back from that, then Magneto goes into his like little like propaganda spiel. He's like, "Welcome home, everyone." And then he builds a bridge out of all the metal he just like ripped off the ship onto the ship. It's like just mixed messages.
He also makes sure to point out, oh, look, an X-Men has joined us.
Yeah, he singles out
Like, he
Nightcrawler.
calls it out pretty bluntly.
And he does, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Grand Ole Opry, but when they moved from the Ryman Auditorium to like the big stadium place, to make sure that people still stood on the same stage, they cut out a circle of the original Opry stage of the Ryman and put it in the new location. And so that's kind of like what Magneto did here. He like cut a circle around like Nightcrawler's feet and like lifted him up next to him, and he was like, "It's good to see you. We're gonna go talk privately," which usually means you're gonna die.
Yeah, you see that look on Nightcrawler's face where he's just like, "Oh, this could go one of two ways really badly."
Mm-hmm.
He starts doing the Catholics.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
If there was a time to do the cross, that's the time to do it.
That is also the point where it's kind of like hearing about everything that's going on and mentioning, this is where people have been coming to seek refuge after the blast, which very much has the same vibe as like the Snap would later have in the MCU. This is where they finally like gave the moment, which like we said, we don't know what happened. I don't know if the show ever actually like fulfills on it, but this like it's acknowledged as this big moment because it's more than just what happened at the Institute. It feels bigger because they gave it a name,
Yeah.
And Magneto's doing like a little exposition dump on Nightcrawler. Although I have to admit, I forget a lot of what Magneto said here because I was kind of fixated on like Magneto can liquefy metal now. I don't know if this is a new thing or this is the first time I've seen it. Because also like a line like the heads up.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with the comic book, so I know all the X-Men stuff I know is from the original show and action figures from the 90s.
Didn't even read the cards. He'd look at the cards and just not read the back of them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the metal liquefying thing is something that he can do. We just don't often see it. I mean, the most prominent example of him like liquefying metal and like moving it around was when he pulled it out of Wolverine's body.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but this was the first time I saw like because I had to rewind for his helmet coming off. I was like, "What just happened?"
Yeah, where it like splits a half and
yeah, and then everything after that, like the throne came out, like everything just like kind of like was it T-1000 or whatever, like up, like
yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense with his kind of powers. He's Omega level and all that, so liquid metal and all that. but it is. We did not see that like in the old '90s cartoon and stuff like that. It was very much a blunt instrument kind of power.
Yeah, stuff would end up being very jagged.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of like the ship
Which
thing he did.
but it also kind of raises the question of like, well, if he can like liquefy the metal and make these nice surfaces and sculptures, why didn't he make a nicer looking bridge? What was with that haphazard thing?
It's because it was for refugees.
Yeah, he can't put the nice bridge out for them yet.
he wants to say, like, we've learned, no matter, even though Magneto says he wants like an equal world for everyone, he's very hierarchical, which we find more of in this episode.
I mean, he created a throne for himself at one point.
Yeah, I feel like it was right around this time that it started to change in the comic too, because this is post House of M, and I feel like after that you got a little more of the like humbled Magneto. But
I'm not sure I would totally agree with that, because it's like I always kind of felt like Magneto around the time of like the New Mutants, where he became this teacher, the headmaster of the school.
Yeah.
That was when he was like less "I'm going to rule this planet" kind of vibe, and I kind of felt like this was going back to more of the early X-Men days, where he was very much like a bit more global domination minded.
oh no, totally, I agree with you. I'm saying in the comics he
that's what I meant.
started changing. Oh, you felt like he started
In the
going
comic,
world domination. Yeah.
In the comics, it's like he around the time of joining the X-Men was kind of where he stopped getting that egotistical thing, even went back to being a villain.
Right.
This was kind of felt like a throwback to those older days.
Yeah.
Like an arcade
Totally agree.
machine
Yeah.
when he's like maniacal laughing in the intro.
Exactly.
Yeah, so then he says that Kurt should look around. He's going to give him full access. I love the duality here, though, because he's like, I'm giving you free access of everything. Here's your tour guide that's going to walk you through everything. It's my daughter. Is Scarlet Witch. I love how she comes out guns blazing, though, because like she's just in full crown, spandex, everything.
She's ready to go.
Yep. I like this version because we're so used to her starting as a villain and like there already being that antagonism. This is Nightcrawler's first time finding out who she is, so it kind of means that when Quicksilver was being a little shit with Magneto back in the day and stuff like that, she was not involved. So this is like her first intro to any members of the team is the vibe I got.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not like completely dark yet.
Yeah, no, it's like she seems very put together. She seems very poised, and there's no insanity. There's no. I mean, she was never evil in the comics per se, but
Right.
She seems like a genuinely good person when we meet her, and Kurt notices because Kurt can never say no to a beautiful woman.
This is such a horny episode.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Like, not just the interactions with Kurt and her, but just like the vibe of this episode. There's like multiple horny moments in it.
Speaking of horny moments, we get back into. Oh, I said the present here. I'm still in the time travel episode before. Back at the mansion. Kitty's training in the danger room with Bobby.
Oh, sorry, you did skip one little quick part, Rod. Nightcrawler is kind of like in disbelief about everything that's going on. You see Dust spying in the background, and that's where Kurt is like, well, your dad used to be very much like the global domination kind of guy. And then you do realize that there's one of the other acolytes, Scanner, who is spying on behalf of Magneto.
I didn't catch that until later. Okay, so it happened earlier. Than
that.
Yeah, it happened there too.
Yep. Magneto was being kind of creepy there, watching his daughter, meeting a nice boy and keeping an eye on that.
Back at the mansion, Kitty's training in the danger room, and then we find out Bobby's there. Bobby's just trying to like hang on for life. He's just made a big shield and he's trying to like wear it down. And Kitty's like, "Come on, we're here to train." Mm-hmm. And she's like, "Throw me up to the turret at least." And then he takes like the longest like route of like an ice slide up.
It's Bobby.
Yeah. He's being extra and whining the entire time.
Yeah, and then he does get Kitty up there. She disables them by like phasing through them or whatever. But when everybody falls, like they land on each other. Yeah, it's this horny moment.
Next horny moment.
But then they get interrupted by Angel, or so we think.
Who the first tip off was the fact that he arrived in costume.
Yeah,
I was like, that's a That's a choice. That means he got out of his limo and then got changed before coming downstairs.
Yeah, that's true, because his whole thing is him and his dad are like, we have to kind of stay hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he only suits up when it's necessary.
Yeah.
And also his very first question is he wants to see Xavier. But then like,
Well, his first question was, "Where's Wolverine?"
yeah, where's
Because does this show ever feel like there's moments where you remember that Poochie episode where Homer's like, "When Poochie's not on screen,
Yeah.
people should ask, where's Poochie?"
yeah.
So the first thing is, "Where's Logan?" It's like, all right, we remember this is his show, and then
Yeah.
where's Xavier?
And then he just tackles him, and it's like, it's total slapstick, but I loved it.
And I think as a viewer, like, oh, that's Mystique.
Yeah.
And so
The second the tackle happened, it's like, okay, it has to be Mystique,
Yeah.
right?
then we cut back to Genosha, and then this is the first time I noticed that Dust was there. So like Scarlet Witch and Kurt are walking around on their tour, and then like Magneto is asking Scanner to like show him like them walking around and stuff, and then we see Dust. And I only know Dust because of you pointing her out in the previous episode
From 97, where she was there.
was she 97? Okay.
She was. Remember when we did the review of the original trailer? She was one of the people that was on that original Hellfire Gala poster and stuff.
We're just gonna assume I don't remember things, but I do. I remember her being pointed out. I didn't know her before this podcast.
Yes.
And so that's the only reason I like had recognized her when she was like in the background. I'm like, oh, that's the chick that can turn into sand, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I also jumped in my notes too, so you were right on the original thing.
this is where happened. Okay, gotcha.
Yep. I jumped on my notes. I fucked that up. I'm having a hell of an afternoon right now.
All good. Everybody's
It's
having.
chaos.
Yeah. I'm going through. I'm roughing through my notes. This one over here is medicated to high hell. So we're all surviving.
We'll just blame it on the Scarlet Witch being in this episode and just causing chaos for
you go.
everything.
That's the best excuse ever.
I did expect reality warping to be part of her thing more in this episode.
I feel like with this and like the X-Men cartoons, they really downplay that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just because if you got a character who can warp reality, that kind of makes everything else irrelevant.
Yeah. I mentioned
And you could only do so much of it. Like you have like a Proteus where you could go big with it, but you can't. You have to have such a major thing, like, oh, he's the mind of a child. That's the only way it works. But an adult with reality warping, like it's too powerful a storyline, you know.
It's kind of like whenever they do Phoenix stories with Jean Grey, and when she's just Jean, they have to make her a lot less powerful than she normally is, because otherwise...
Yeah.
So then when she does Phoenix, then it's like, oh my god, look at that power.
Yeah.
But it's only for a little while.
A line last episode, I don't know if you remember this, but I was referencing, which I think is a Simpsons episode, where there was some like Comic-Con happening, and one of the people in the like characters of a famous actor was like, whatever you don't know, understand, it was a wizard.
Yeah, a wizard did it.
A wizard did it. So Scarlet Witch is kind of on a date with Kurt. Like they're clearly flirting during this.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kurt kind of kills the mood because he's like, yeah, I'd like to go talk to the X-Men. It's like, do you really want to talk to them right now? Because they think you're still on a fucking ship. They don't care where you are right now. They got other stuff to deal with.
Yeah,
but to be fair, Wanda was very understanding about it.
She understood her assignment. Then we see on the other side at the mansion the video hologram call or whatever from Kurt to Storm and Beast specifically, and it's so funny because I have to keep remembering that these characters are experiencing Genosha for the first time, but we're experiencing Genosha for like the 17th time. And so like Nightcrawler's like, it's great here, and Storm's like, I love how Beast is like, well, if he says so, and leave it, like, gotta love the black woman. It's like, I don't know. She's like, come on.
I remember all those other times he was trying to wipe us out.
Right? Yeah.
Storm holds a grudge. She's not gonna let it pass.
Storm's like, this bitch don't forget.
Yeah, it's like that's part of the reason why when I'm watching this show, I'm always like, why isn't she in charge? She's the one who knows what's going on.
Yeah. All the time. Growing up, Storm is my favorite character. That's like 90% of the reason I hate all the X-Men movies. Because Halle Berry and the way she wrote her was like I like every Storm except that one. And
And that's fair. That is 100% fair.
I like how even
I like
Halle Berry
Berry
doesn't
as an
like it.
actress,
Yeah.
but Storm was not it.
Did you see her on the red carpet being asked if she was coming back for Doomsday?
Oh yeah,
I
she
loved
was
her
like, I
response.
haven't even asked.
She was like, "Keep waiting." But
Uh-huh.
I'd heard that like that's actually believable because she had such a bad experience on the last movie she was on.
With the last one, they kind of
Oh,
the
yeah.
director
Yeah.
like lied to her face and stuff. So yeah,
So I'm happy for her as a person in that case, and I'm happy for me that I want to see that in, like one of my favorite franchises. So because like I just want to see her recast someone cool that we're not familiar with right now. And
I say bring in my favorite fan cast, which is Angela Bassett. Bring her back, but have her as Storm.
so good.
It's only tough because of the. I guess not anymore. If Robert Downey Jr. can come back as Doom, then-
Multiverse, man.
Exactly, multiverse. There we go.
But Angela Bassett, she should have been Storm in the 2000s. Like
Yep.
that was.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
she was at the height, and everything, and like the height of her
There
career.
was a Wizard magazine fan cast article, and she was their pick for Storm.
Yeah,
They had two people right in that fan cast, right? They had they had her as the one that should have been, and then they actually were one of the ones who posted Patrick Stewart should be Xavier in it.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So Storm should just be in charge all the time, and also be like a leader, a goddess, all that stuff.
All that.
Also listen to Storm. I think the only time you can't trust Storm is when she falls in love. I think that's really like, at least in my experience of seeing her.
I
Like,
mean, that's kind of fair.
it's just that when she does make mistakes, it's usually because she fell for somebody.
Yeah,
it's
like,
like,
the god of thunder fuckboy
Yeah.
from the
that was what I was
animated
gonna say
series.
too. Yeah, because like that stays in your mind as like Storm. You're better than this. Come on.
Yeah.
Side note, because I said fuckboy, I just have to say this somewhere before I forget it. We have an ongoing joke about Evolution's Gambit being fuckboy Gambit. AJ Locascio, who is the voice of Gambit in '97, just launched his own podcast with a few other comedy creators called Answer for It.
Oh.
And the entire first episode has fuckboy in the title because they talk about Fuckboy Island. And that was a full circle moment for me.
I was hoping you were saying AJ started a podcast called Fuck Boys. Like,
I mean, let's see how
Okay.
Answer for It goes over the next couple episodes. Maybe they convert it over.
Next con I see him at, I'm gonna like pitch that to him.
yeah.
I heard the first episode of your trivia podcast. You need to just emphasize fuckboy and forget the rest of it.
Anyway, in this setting, Kurt's call.
They actually do what you were saying of Nightcrawler's like, where's Logan? How's
Yeah.
Logan doing?
Exactly.
But then Kitty interrupts the call and is like, "Hey, speaking of Logan, they said shredding Angel." And I'm like, "Don't say that unless you're going to do it. There's a reason you had that Hulk Wolverine movie because you couldn't do it here." He's knocking him around, but still okay. So then the team like goes to try to like stop Wolverine. I guess I give him the benefit of the doubt. I was kind of thinking like, you guys have been a team long enough, and this team is like proven that they work together pretty well because this is post team, right? Like they've been team. An event happened, and they dismantled. Now they're getting the band back together, and they just don't trust Wolverine. This is the first time he sensed someone by smell.
And also, you would think that, considering everyone's like hero worshipping Logan in this entire series,
Yeah,
they would have given
To
him
the
the benefit
point
of the
where
doubt.
they won't stop asking about him. Yeah.
Exactly. And then also there's just the fact, why didn't Wolverine just say, like immediately as he's tackling, that's not Angel?
yeah.
That's
yeah.
all he had to say was just
Exactly.
give an explanation before tackling.
I was thinking
Exactly.
like, if I arrived at that situation, I was like, somebody I've known for years or a billionaire. Probably not going to side with a billionaire.
He's a nepo billionaire. Though.
Yeah.
I feel like most of the X-Men are like middle class, so they probably wouldn't side with
Yeah.
him either. So.
Yeah. I will say, like, if I put on my comic mindset, there have been times where Wolverine has just been, like, under mind control and killed a bunch of people before. So maybe there was a thing like, burst that had happened that they're like, oh, that's why Rogue's mad at him because he killed a bunch of people or something like that.
What
But
happened to Rogue? We haven't seen her in a while.
she was in Time Bomb, which we recorded like a month and a half ago, which was only 2 episodes
Good
away
for you, yeah.
for listeners of the show. So.
But then, so at this point, we don't know it's Mystique yet. But if you watch X-Men, you know it's Mystique.
Yep.
And in like, she turns into Storm and then runs away. I love that's a power play.
So I did love this. There was a animated series reference right there, because it was like the nose, and that was one of his lines from the Phoenix Saga episodes in particular. The second I heard it, I immediately paused it, and I was like, Wolverine the nose. I'm like, where do I know that line from?
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like that might have been like brought up like a reoccurring thing in the comics too. He used to say that, so one of his catchphrases at this point, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point, that was like that era where I wasn't reading as much X-Men, because I feel like that was ripped from the 80s, 90s, early Wolverine.
Yeah, it feels like a Claremont line.
Yes. Definitely feels like Claremont vibes.
And then we focus in on Dazzler having a full-on Taylor Swift Eras Tour concert.
Yes.
And then,
she has a full arena for it.
But they couldn't like record any like new music, so it's just like melodic background noise while she's throwing fireworks. I'm like, oh, come on, give us a soundtrack for this. I want a Dazzler soundtrack, damn it. Here's
an idea. I recently bought the Dazzler miniseries that had come out, and Rod, in every single issue, has a song. No like background beat or anything like that, but it has the lyrics.
Oh, interesting.
That would be dope if we could like actually get Dazzler music.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I'll find those lyrics and I'll send them to you, because they're like they're legit pop song shit. Okay. So.
Also, speaking of, I know in previous episodes of this podcast, we had talked about like before Deadpool and Wolverine came out, there was all the rumors that Taylor Swift was going to be Dazzler in that movie, and then we kind of like gave our other guesses, because I think at that time we were like, Taylor Swift feels a little bit too big to be Dazzler, right? Like Dazzler was great, but like Taylor Swift is like probably I think the highest grossing musician now, like touring or whatever. That feels like a little bit.
Yeah, but this is Disney money.
Yeah, but no, I just mean like as far as like I don't as far as I've seen Dazzler in the cartoons in the animated shows and stuff, she's not that, right? Like she's not
big enough to justify Taylor Swift's price.
Yeah, so or just like the cachet that she carries with her, you know, like, and you had mentioned like Cascada, I think.
Yeah, Cascada is the modern day vibe of Dazzler for me.
I think I have a new one to throw in the ring, is Tate McRae. So I'm not very familiar with much of her music, other than like it, and I say this respectfully and lovingly because I'm not trying to make fun of her. It somehow has like no memorable hooks, but like lots of vibes, you know.
Oh, if you gave her blonde hair, 100% could see this.
She's also like she's Gen Z's Paula Abdul, where she does sing pop songs technically, but she's a dancer first and foremost. Like if you watch like her latest video, she does these crazy dance moves. She does this thing where she like does like a back bend, you know, into like a handstand thing. It's crazy. Like she's very flexible and dances really well and things. But you can tell like all the songs she works on, there's like at least part, if not all, the component of like how are we going to choreograph this. So like I feel like she could be. That seems like a Dazzler, right? Like where because she has like this powers set is like half of the show.
Yeah. Once we're done recording, I'm going to listen to some of her music and see if I recognize any of it. Like, I'm definitely out of the age group that would know who the fuck that was before you said it.
I'm just going to give you a heads up, like, because I feel like I'm pretty plugged into music, and like I was not familiar with any of it, and she's very popular. So I think we're finally at that age where we just don't know any of these current musicians.
Damn kids and their newfangled music.
But shout out to her. You know, you made a career out of entertaining and music. She's working with the biggest songwriters on earth. But we find out that Scarlet Witch and Kurt went to that concert, and Kurt was excited that he got to go to a concert without having to hide. Because I forgot that this is not a version that has that weird watch thing that he can.
Oh, the evolution watch, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how with the image inducer, he had it in the comics for his first few years, and then they finally got to where he stopped using it because he refused to hide himself. Largely, they haven't had him wear that image inducer except for X-Men Evolution. I think they might bring it back for like a bit where he needs to do an undercover mission, but for the most part that has kind of fallen out of the wayside entirely.
Yeah, I don't think except for Evolution that I've ever picked up something that he's done it, and I've been buying weekly books since 2005 at this point. So
it feels like they did it in Evolution because everybody had to go to high school, at least for the first couple seasons.
Yeah.
And besides that, though, I think the original animated series established that putting on a trench coat and a hat is disguise at that point. You know, Beast, how many times was he just in a trench coat and a hat, and we were like, oh, he definitely doesn't have blue fur. That's definitely a human.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, he stole that from Raphael from the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I just feel like everyone should just do the I call it the Marvel undercover method, where it's a hoodie, a baseball cap, and that's your disguise.
Scarlet Witch, best spy on the planet.
Yeah.
Hoodie and a baseball hat.
And they're starting to flirt some more, but then they get interrupted by. I was so confused by this fight because I couldn't tell who was defending offense and who was defense and stuff. But my note here says there's a mutant fight / attack that interrupts with an energy skeleton.
So that character, I don't know who that is. Okay. I was looking up, I could not find who that was.
If it was just the head, it would have been like a kind of a Ghost Rider thing. But this was something. It was like a Proteus kind of thing or something.
Yeah, it's like, I think he was supposed to be Holocaust, which is normally an Age of Apocalypse villain. It's usually got like this big bulky armor and whatnot. But that was the closest thing I could think of. I feel like there was a Morlock in the later years, but I was not entirely sure myself.
The only reason I would doubt Holocaust, aside from the name being as problematic as it ended up being, is it was the blue flames as opposed to the, because he's almost always red in the depictions.
Yeah, red or orange.
Yeah, but he does a reverse get over here, which like Rod is just a massive Mortal Kombat fan. So I was like, oh, it's kind of not Scorpion.
Yeah, it's like it's the COVID Scorpion. Remember, it's like stay over there.
Yeah.
But then Scarlet Witch hoses him down. I thought that was hilarious. He's like, "Oh, you're on fire." But Kurt teleports them away, and then kind of like tussles with them.
He wraps his arm in like her scarf, and that's enough for him to knock this guy out by punching him in the face a few times.
Sure, Scarlet Witch. It was a wizard.
But I like her like pseudo judgmental phrasing of like, Magneto welcomes everybody, but not everybody he welcomes is so enlightened. And it was like, oh, cult vibe.
Yeah, that gave complete cult vibe. The minute she said that, even Kurt's like, that's a choice. That's a phrase.
He's
choice.
like, I go to church, and you just sounded like a cult.
Yeah. So Kurt's like, okay, so I want to see where you take these people who aren't as enlightened. And then Scarlet Witch strip takes him to a prison. The only one I recognized in there was Sauron. I'm sure there was other like notable.
Who's
characters.
not a mutant?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And also, I forget. Like, should Sauron still be in that form outside of Savage Land? I can't remember. That's how.
Well,
it
it's
works.
the necklace, right?
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
No, it's because his thing is that if he touches a mutant, he transforms into the big pterodactyl monster, and the less mutant energy he gets, the more he turns back into a normal human.
So being in that prison is like keeping him in that form.
I think he's in detox.
Yeah.
So maybe he zapped a bunch of mutants, and now they're just waiting for him to go back to looking like a normal person again.
Yeah. And
then there's just a guy with like a pottery set.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know
that was one of the 2000s New Mutant characters. I can't remember what the character's name was, but he was on like Cyclops' team of students.
I was going to ask if either of you would like recognize any of the other prisoners or unenlightened. I don't know how they're wording that. Mutants, because I didn't know who anybody else was.
Yeah, that kid had like quill powers or something like that. That might have even been his name. I can't remember now.
Keep talking. I'm gonna look it
up. But they kind of skim past that, and then Scarlet Witch takes Kurt to his room, which is like luxurious. I mean, I guess it makes sense because they're kind of like at a castle almost or something. And Kurt even says like, "This can't be."
Yep, that's him.
Oh,
his name is Quill. Good job.
Okay.
Yep.
I kept wanting to say Spike, but I'm like, no, that's the guy from X-Men Evolution. Yeah, clearly not.
And then Kurt says like he's suspicious. He's like, "This is not what you do for everybody, right?" And she's like, "Enjoy your room."
But they're like a moment away from either him inviting her in or them kissing at least, because there's that beat where it's like horny energy again.
Yeah, that was the third horny moment.
Yeah, except I think like Kurt is just like his radar's off because he didn't act on anything. He just like, thanks, close the door. Like,
well, I thought there was like a moment of hesitation where he was like considering it, but he's like, no, I need to deal with this stuff.
Gotcha, yeah. Because then when he closes the door, we see Dustus standing there and is like, warning, meet at the cells, and then does like the coolest 90s blow away.
Yeah.
Also, her voice
like,
changed so dramatically when she said her name.
Also, the voice actor for that definitely wasn't who I was expecting. That's also Tara Strong.
Really?
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
Yes. Because she was in the last episode as Marrow, and then in this episode as Dust, and like having seen her at events and stuff like that, she's Bubbles. In my head, she is Bubbles. And then she was Dust. I was like, okay, got it.
Like, Tara's been in the game so long, I feel like, especially in the 2000s, they were like, she's on like a day rate, and they're like, okay, how many more hours do you have? Like,
Well, it's the same as Cyclops being Nolan North. It was like there was that era of voice actor that you had like a 1 in 5 chance of getting one of these people, you know?
yeah. It's like Phil Lamar, Kevin Richardson, or something. Just I don't know what they look. I wouldn't know what they look like. Well, I guess Phil Lamar now I know what he looks like, but mostly people I wouldn't know what they look like. But I just see their name at the end of every Warner's credits and stuff.
Yeah, like
Opting for like 20 characters in a single show.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's David Arrigo Jr. now, right? He's like
20 characters just in X-Men for David.
Oh, and now we can finally talk about him being Ferb. Like, remember when?
Oh yeah, that was you were dying to say that when we were,
because before, like, he was on here with us, and he was like, when we couldn't talk about it, but like the world knew. It was just one of these weird like stipulations.
Yeah, it was like we just can't have the conversation about it. Yeah,
Yeah, because they had already announced that they were planning the show coming back and all that, but he still could not say anything.
Yeah, except all of Los Angeles knew already.
yeah.
But I still imagine if he had even said one word, you see like 3 little lights forming a Mickey Mouse face in his forehead.
Right. Actually, did we have?
That's the worst Predator ever.
It's kind of when you say that
You
because
just hear a loud, right before the bullet goes.
I can't remember if it was for that episode, but like for some of the ones where we interview the voice actors, Disney was on the line with us.
Isaac's episode.
Yeah. So I was like, Rob, be good, be good.
Yep. Yeah, we were dialed in, and there was literally just like the 4th face cam was just blank because they weren't on camera, but they were there.
I did a podcast recently for QCon, and the host was telling us about how he did a panel once with the voice actor for Goofy. And apparently Disney had reached out to him and said, you are not allowed to ask him to do the Goofy voice. You're not allowed to do this, this, and this.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And they were like in the room with them. And the actor for Goofy was just like, what are they going to do? Fire me? And he just kept doing the voices, doing all this stuff, talking about all the stuff Disney did not want him to do.
Was that Bill Farmer?
Yeah, the current Goofy.
Yeah, because he was the voice in Goofy movie, so I don't know if he's still.
Yeah, he's been Goofy for 7 million.
I love it. He's he's like an old man. Like he's like, who cares? Like,
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so then it goes right to Kurt going to where he originally toured the cells, but they're empty. So at this point, I thought
in his bright red outfit again, though. Like he was actually more subtle when he was in the tuxedo.
Yeah, right. This we've said in Evolutions, like maybe you don't necessarily need the inducer, just like don't wear a leotard.
You can wear the leotard, just don't do the bright red leotard.
But I mean, like, even if you
like
just wear like, if you wear like shorts and a t-shirt, it would be like, you know.
Yeah, but to be fair, he's a circus performer. He can't stop himself.
Yeah, so he can't judge that Magneto's a theater kid. He's sort of one himself too.
He's a circus kid, so he's the one who's doing all the weird tricks in the background.
So at this point, I was actually kind of wondering if, because all the cells were empty, so I was wondering if that was Scarlet Witch's like reality thing. The first time we were there, she kind of projected. That's maybe why Sauron and a bunch of stuff that didn't make sense.
I got the vibe that it was her projecting because I can't see those other prisoners like behaving. Even like somebody would have like had a freak out moment or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Especially Sauron.
Like, don't trust them or something, you know?
I mean, it's very possible. Not to mention there's a bunch of other mutants that Magneto probably has who could create illusions.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just a theater kid in them, and they all decided to put on a show for Nightcrawler.
They're not actually prisoners. They were just acting.
Exactly.
I like that theory better.
It was all a bit.
It was, I'm going to murder your families if you don't go and behave in this cell. if you do well, you're going to get a reward. It was very much like a stick and carrot scenario, I feel like.
Or Magneto was just promising them, like, all right, if you do this bit, I'll let you do that show in the park that you guys have been trying, bugging me about.
Well, we also had that other kid doing the performance right when they first got there, where he's doing like water shaping and stuff, like he's from Avatar. So there are a bunch of very bored mutants who want to put on shows in Genosha, is what my takeaway from our version of this episode. Yeah,
I just, when you said that it was like a bit with actors, my head like immediately went to Trevor Slattery from like Iron Man and Shang-Chi. Like he's like the actor, like he's there trying to get more credits. He's like, I'll get.
Let's just be honest, Genosha is just one big theater camp.
Kinda. Everybody's already in costume. But then Kurt digs deeper or goes deeper, and he finds like a kind of a more barbaric, like traditional dungeon you'd expect, but and immediately gets caught, probably because he's wearing bright red. By Magneto
after seeing Mercury and Seamus bringing in dust.
Oh yeah. They caught dust, which I'm glad that they showed the bars and then the electricity, because it's like you just put a sand person. Yeah, it just.
I just really want to know how they caught her to begin with, because it's like, with her powers, I can't imagine that was easy.
I think you just have to get her from behind and knock her out cold, like so she doesn't transform into the dust part. I think that's all she has.
See, I kind of took it as she led Kurt there, and then she knew that she was probably going to get caught, and that was.
Oh, you think she let herself get caught for it?
Kind of like she knew that it was a viable, that was a probability, and that maybe she kind of led Kurt. That, you know what I mean, like to meet him there or something. I don't know. Or it was an accident, or nobody was thinking about that. They just needed someone else to get caught.
She's just not like really good at being sneaky.
Yeah.
I feel like she should have told Kurt that plan, because she gets immediately put behind the bars and Kurt does nothing to save her. So if that was her plan, she definitely is not the master strategist.
Yeah. And then Magneto and Pyro immediately catch Kurt. Magneto forgets that Kurt can teleport.
Oh yeah, that look of surprise when he teleports. It's like, really, dude? I mean,
yeah, because it's like, oh yeah, Sayaka, and he puts the heavy emphasis on the guy's name, and he like hits the whip around his leg, and it's like, oh, that burned a little bit, but then he teleported away anyway.
Back at the mansion, they're still chasing the shapeshifter, quote unquote. That at that point has turned into Emma, and then I might be skipping some.
Who gives an amazing moment, like especially if you're playing Marvel Rivals right now. Like, I don't remember in versions I've read of Emma where like she does like a big kick, but that is like one of the best things to do in Marvel Rivals right now. You turn into diamond form, you kick somebody into a wall, and they like collide in the wall and take damage from the impact. It pisses so many people off. It's such a good feeling when you pull it off, though. And then she also choke slams people, which has a whole other connotation going along with it.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that writers and artists have loved so much since they gave Emma her diamond form. Just where she has these moments of complete, I'm going to put you in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then fake Bobby takes out Kitty. And Logan...
Oh, after fake Bobby takes out Forge.
That's right. Yeah,
real Bobby took out Forge.
A real Bobby took out Forge. Yeah.
Yep. That was real Bobby taking out Forge.
This was the moment I said like Forge should have died.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or at least been cryogenically frozen. But he was talking under the ice.
And Bobby knew the answer.
Is it just me, or do the writers just not like Forge? Like he's the Meg of this show.
All right. So, Rod, pitch your case for why you like this version of Forge. So in the last episode, there's lots of goofy Forge moments, and I just don't dig this version of Forge. But Rod is like, oh, he's great comedic relief.
Yeah. John doesn't like this Forge, but I get. It's kind of like, I feel like for me, if it's too goofy of a character played Storm or something, I'd probably not like it either. But I'm not as attached to Forge, and like I think he's kind of funny, especially because he's like a lot of like the tech and maker people that I know in real life and YouTube and stuff. Because if you're not funny and happy-go-lucky, you're just a super villain. Because like with the amount of like failure that a maker or a tech person like that has to face, if you're not happy-go-lucky, then you will turn to the dark side.
I mean, that's fair. I can see that, considering how many times Forge has turned into a villain being kind of serious. But I'm also just like, the amount of abuse that man gets put through in this show. It's like, it's not even comic relief. I feel like Wolverine actively hates him.
When he scratched through the Blackbird with his claws, like that was
petty.
such a dick move.
That was
Just
petty
so
as all-
unnecessary.
I don't enjoy that part because, like, for me, I don't like seeing people suffer that had nothing coming to them even in film and stuff. You know, like John knows this, like in Goofy movie, most of the time I have to skip past Max disappointing Goofy because I know it's there because it's the third act conflict or whatever. Everything's so fun until that point.
Like you see the pizza get pulled out, and then you're like, I have to skip for at least
I don't
2
want to see
minutes.
him like draw the line. I don't want to see Goofy ask him what direction to turn. Like I just skip straight to the Powerline concert. Like,
there was no conflict. Everything was okay.
because I know it's there.
Dad and Max decided as a group to talk about it and then drive to Los Angeles, right, Rod?
Or even I don't even mind knowing that it happened. I just don't want to experience it because whenever I turn on Goofy movie, I'm just like trying to have a good time. And granted, when I do, like, every once in a while I go to the El Capitan when they have, because they usually air it when it's on my birthday, because my birthday's on Labor Day weekend. It's usually like a fun watch or whatever. But if I'm just at home and I pull up Disney Plus or something, I'm like, I'm pulling this up because I probably don't feel good about something, or I want to feel better about something. So I just don't want to like watch that conflict. So like stuff with Forge when they're like, "Fuck you," I'm like, "Oh no, he didn't do anything. He's such a nice guy." He also kind of I mentioned this in the first episode we saw him. He kind of reminds me of like a young Lin-Manuel Miranda. Like, in
so
his, like,
much. I could see that.
stuff. But anyway, so yeah, Kurt somehow Forge, I guess, a wizard and immortal and doesn't get killed, and then fake Bobby
Bobby knocks out Kitty,
and
then real Bobby finds them and then gets knocked on his ass immediately.
and then Logan confronts who we find out is Mystique. She finally turns into her. She doesn't have the dress this time. She has
she's in
nice
pants.
modern pants.
Yeah, they gave her pants.
Which makes a little bit more sense. Like if it's not going to be the Rebecca Romaine, like just scaly nude, like the pants thing makes sense because of how like Mystique's at least when I've seen, is always like this kind of like really agile fighter. So why would she be in a dress? You know?
Yeah, around this time in the comics, they started putting her in more form-fitting outfits, black leather, that kind of thing. So they kind of got away from the dress part, but this is a nice. You could see the dress aspects.
Yeah. It's the bounding kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, you find out that this Mystique has some history with Logan. He doesn't remember it. And then one thing that's spoiled in a future episode, I say spoiled very loosely, is one of our other guests that we have booked to come up specifically picked an episode, and I looked at the thumbnail when he told me which one, and it has Mystique and Wolverine on it. So I'm imagining that's where the origin of their relationship comes into play in some regards.
Yeah, because she turns into Weapon X specifically.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, you don't remember me? I remember you," and it's the helmet that I hate.
Oh yeah,
Sorry, I hate the helmet.
I love that helmet because I love those action figures when I was a kid. But also, it was interesting that not only Logan but none of the X-Men know him, which is weird for me to think about an X-Men that has already been the X-Men, and then
to the point where it was like a full school of kids.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the original 5 or even the second generation team. It was like there was a student body at this school at that point.
Yeah, we had multiple generations of X-Men. We had kids running around. So, this was more Grant Morrison, the movies, rather than what they did in like X-Men in the 90s.
Exactly.
And then back at Genosha, Kurt is escaping. He's being chased by like a monster. This is the closest thing I could come up with.
It's Seamus.
Oh, Seamus. Okay, that's
Yeah.
Seamus. Okay.
Yeah, the green troll thing, which also apparently knows it's invulnerable because it tackles him off a roof and is going to be okay landing with him in his hand. It's like, all right, you're pretty damn durable.
Yeah. I actually started writing like, and then just kills the monster, but they show him like do the superhero landing. And then Scarlet Witch confronts Kurt and tries to stop him from escaping, and Magneto catches up with them. And Kurt does what I've been wondering if he could do all along. Because, you've said that he can only, unless writers aren't thinking about it, he can only teleport in line of sight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, can he just keep doing it incrementally over, a long distance? And then he just starts doing it incrementally.
Yeah. that's something he's done in the comics a lot, where he's gone like cross country, teleporting in short bursts. Which, when I watch this scene, I think about that line in X-Men '97 where Cyclops goes, "All right, we're gonna go to Mirror Island. Nightcrawler can get us over there." I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I just want to see Nightcrawler going, "You expect me to do what?"
Yeah.
Right. Well, wasn't that also like one of the power creep issues that happened with Nightcrawler 2 at the beginning of the Krakoan era, where he literally teleports into the Orcus thing in space too? Like they like got. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't like going from Earth to the sun, but he was like going from spaceship to spaceship and shit. And it was like, they're letting Kurt go really far right now. I thought he was gonna like pass out in the ocean or something like that. I couldn't believe they let him go as far as they did.
That took some stamina on Kurt's part for this story.
He was also having like that slight refractory period too, where he would like be in the air, drop a little bit, and he was like basically kind of like, if you plotted it, he'd be zigzagging, as opposed to just going like in a horizontal plane too.
Also,
He just,
how
like,
did he even
shows up in a
know he was
different
going in the
color.
right direction?
I was gonna say he just shows up in like Japan or something. It's like, damn it.
Yeah, I'm like, did he have like his phone with him, and was he just like checking Google Maps every few feet or something like that?
So I was actually kind of thinking about, was it the sulfur dimension he goes to? Is
Yeah,
that
like
what's called?
Brimstone.
Brimstone
Yeah.
dimension. I'm just picturing those like hounds or whatever that are there. They just see him like what the fuck is going on? Like,
I would also like to find out in this specific version of the X-Men where Genosha is, because I'm pretty sure Genosha in the comics was outside of Africa, like it was like
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
east
it
of
was-
Kenya or something like that.
Yeah, it was like right just off of like the continent of Africa and stuff like that.
The map, when I did a quick search, has it northeast of Madagascar.
Jeez.
So that means Kurt went over Africa or around Africa in this case.
jeez. Yeah, or
I'm like, does
maybe
Wakanda exist in this universe? Did he stop there for like a breather or what?
Let's find out.
he just breaks down. He's like, please help. But yeah, that was when he did the first couple like teleports. I was like, oh geez, they're gonna make him do that. But then back in the mansion, I don't know if I missed any details, but my only note here was like big old fight, Mystique and Logan.
Yep, nailed
Okay,
it.
but then
Yeah.
that fight gets interrupted by a pager from Mystique. I didn't catch this initially, but like later on, I was like, oh okay, so Magneto and Mystique are working together in this universe, and he called it off because Kurt's on his way over.
There was also definitely some time dilation
Yeah.
in this episode.
Yes.
because the stuff with Kurt, even at the maximum of his teleporting ability, it's taking him a day
Yeah.
to do what he's doing, and from arriving to the island, going through all the shit with Wanda, next morning gets to the beach, whereas all the stuff happened in the morning of the institute. Like that was like
Yeah, maybe a couple of
20-minute
hours.
time frame, if that even. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, the Mystique just immediately runs off. So I'm getting the impression that she's a soldier in this universe and not her own, like, because in Evolution she was kind of like a rogue, like
Yeah.
entity or something.
And it's like, I've seen the entire season, so I don't want to spoil anything for you
Okay.
guys, but
Appreciate that.
and then we see Kurt reach the shore of the mansion, which we're always kind of confused about the geography of New York in this.
There are not cliffsides in that area of New York.
it's like, is Westchester County close to the ocean?
It's close-ish. It's not Oceanside.
Yeah, so I'm like, where?
With a waterfall and driving distance to New York City, like
Uh-huh.
Well, this whole episode is me looking up maps,
Right.
honestly.
so he finally reaches the shore, and you feel tired with him. Logan, quotes, finds him, and then quickly reveals herself to be Mystique. I'm kind of glad that I was wondering if they were going to immediately do the reveal of their relations, or if they even have it in this series. But she knocks him out, and she reports back to Magneto that
She gives a brutal ass kick, too.
yeah.
Like she's
Yeah.
not holding stuff back in this.
The animation on that was like, you could feel the impact, even though we didn't even see him get, like, properly hit.
The closest equivalent I could give to it, Rod, you have your clip assignment, is find Randy Orton doing the punt kick
Okay.
in WWE. Because this is like a side kick to the head that knocks anybody out who he ever hits it with.
Nice.
That's the vibe I got from this one. So
And yeah, so while Mystique is reporting back to Magneto, Magneto kind of tells him like, yeah, don't go back in there yet because she was supposed to get Xavier, but he's like, yeah, don't go back because there's something fishy because the X-Men just like know too much. So we don't know if necessarily he knows that Xavier's communicating back with him, because I don't know if like time traveling telepathically is like the first thing that comes up on your suspicion list. But he's like, something is happening, so he calls her back in, and then I'm so frustrated, like, because they're like taking Kurt back to Genosha.
after that yeah,
I was dying with it.
And it's just been so unfair. He wakes up in Genosha and just going like, "Are you kidding me?" It was like 12 hours or however long he had to travel.
He just teleports onto a spike.
Rod went dark.
What was it in Daredevil in the Netflix version when that one guy snitches on Kingpin? He just launches his head into a spike or like a pipe or something. It's kind of like that with Nightcrawler. He's like,
yeah,
nope, can't do this again.
I don't know. It's been so long since I've watched the Netflix one. Obviously, just finished the current one on Disney Plus, but like, I don't know. Some of those moments were so gruesome. I think I've like blocked them out of my head.
Yo, Alain, have you seen?
So
have you seen the new Daredevil?
I have, yes. And I will say this: the last episode.
Yo. Yeah, because I don't know if you'd heard this, but before the show came out, whoever the new showrunners were or something had said something about like, oh, this is more brutal than the original Netflix. And then I was watching the new show, I was like, I like it, but I mean, aside from a couple, gory moments. But then that last episode happened, that one thing.
Yeah.
That we all saw.
No, that was like the entire season. I was like, this is kind of tame. I mean, it's Disney Plus. Maybe they can't get away with as much. And then
but they did say fuck.
Yeah.
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 But it was like, oh, you saved it for the last episode. That was where the violence was.
Yeah. If you look it up, they have a whole making of that moment. It was done practically.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Anyway, get back on topic. That was the end of the episode. John knows this. Like, I didn't love every moment. Well, no, I liked Evolution, but I really liked a lot of the Wolverine the X-Men episodes because this feels like a very superhero comic book. There's mysteries and stuff, and then John really liked the last episode because it felt like a comic book. This one I really appreciate the adventure, and it was a Nightcrawler story that, like you said, a line that wasn't like, let's go to the monastery and revisit my roots again and stuff. He was able to show a lot of his personality through just his actions in the midst of a conflict like this. So
yeah, this felt very much like how he was written when he was in Excalibur, where you can see the tactician in him. His mind is running with everything. He's taking everything in, trying to figure out what's really going on here. But at the same time, it's also in conflict with the fact that he is... I mean, let's be honest. He is a bit of a fuckboy himself. It's like... Yeah. There's a great video on TikTok where somebody calls him Krakoa's community dick. Because I don't know like that.
Yo, it's so funny because like him and Matt Murdock are the two like big Catholic figures in Marvel, right?
And they're also two of the most horny characters.
Yeah, I wasn't aware until She-Hulk, like how much of a fuckboy Matt Murdock is traditionally, and then
like a joke in that people always like to point out is when Krakoa was being created and they were creating the laws, Nightcrawler threw out "make more babies." His rule was Krakoa needs fucking.
I mean, technically, he's of the Christian faith, and technically, the first two commandments from God were get drunk and have sex, right? Go forth and be fruitful, and then Jesus' first miracle of making wine. So
we got a little bit of that with Kurt here, because you can see him like flirting with Wanda, and she's totally into it. And so we get a good look at Kurt as a character beyond just being a man of faith.
Yeah. That's great. Anything else that we missed as we're closing up that you think we should bring up?
I mean, I was dropping in. Most of it was like the references to who the characters were, and like I said, I had to look up Seamus, and I was utterly shocked that his name was Seamus.
Yeah. What about you, Alon?
Well, it's like one reason that I always love this episode is because a lot of people are always surprised by the Scarlet Witch and Nightcrawler dynamic, like the idea of them. But the thing is, this is somewhat canon in the comics because during the '90s there was the Exile series, and there was a character called Nocturne who was introduced, and she was this woman who looked
good.
She looked very much like Nightcrawler, but she had hex-based powers, and it was because Kurt and Wanda got together in her universe, and I love the fact that they were kind of like building that relationship in this series.
Yep.
Because it's one of those that almost in some ways kind of makes sense. Kurt and Wanda both are connected to magic in some ways. Kurt through his adopted family, Wanda through chaos magic, witch family, whichever version of story we're going with her. Also, they were both orphans. They were both, raised in very unconventional ways with, Wanda being part of a traveling Romani family and Kurt in the circus and stuff. So it's like this relationship that really is interesting. And then you have the conflict of Wanda believing in Magneto's dogma and Kurt mistrusting that because of the fact that he knows Magneto's history. You have a good conflict, but romance building.
I love the difference in this version of the Scarlet Witch compared to what we had in Evolution, and not because one is right and one is wrong, but we went from the Wanda that despised her father because he was the worst father, and then Quicksilver was the one who was always up Magneto's ass, and then in this one, Quicksilver's not even allowed on Genosha, basically, and Wanda is the one who drank all the Kool-Aid. So I love the juxtaposition between the two series.
Honestly, this is probably the most accurate version of the Leisure family, just because of that. Because in the comics, Quicksilver is Magneto's, fourth favorite child, and he's only got 3 of them.
I will say I do love Punker Ducky with her action figure photoshops that she did. One was basically just parenting skills with Magneto, and it was just making fun of the Quicksilver relationship. Yeah.
But yeah, it's his relationship with Wanda is a nice change from the Evolution version, especially seeing because she wasn't always as hardcore supportive in the comics, but she was always a lot more forgiving to Magneto at times compared to Quicksilver.
Yeah, and we even saw that in the original animated series where he was always ready to fight more, and she was slightly she wasn't antagonistic the way that he was with it. So
we have an ongoing thing here where Lucy is always knows when we're wrapping up, and she wakes up then. And I love how even when she's doped up, she still woke up about 5 minutes ago. She's like, "Are we done yet?"
She's like, "You need to do laundry. Wrap your shit up."
Oh yeah,
executive producer Kitty.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, she's the boss.
Yeah. But very cool. Thanks again for joining us, Align. Remind everybody where they can find you, both online and in real life.
Well, probably just online. Real life might be a little awkward.
Yeah, well, I mean, because you go to cons and stuff a lot, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I've got my Instagram is amdiaz_art. Most of my other socials are amdiazart. And I will be attending in July. The Uncanny Experience is happening. I will be their official Nightcrawler for that event.
Nice.
It's an immersive X-Men experience. We rent out a mansion, turn into the school to have classes, dances. There are different houses that you can join, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. It is our junior year, so
nice. Oh,
yep. We've had Chris on and talked about it. Unfortunately, because of the way it falls from a calendar perspective with work, I cannot make it this year. But I want to go to a future one. But dear God, please, Chris and Chandler, don't do it during July. July kills me. So
we were planning for September again, like the previous years, but they wouldn't give us the option. So summer classes. Hopefully next year we're back in September, because that also means we're not in conflict with San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. And I don't like traveling, so that's my rate. Anyway,
Do it.
thanks again for joining us. If you have any thoughts, make sure to drop
Thanks for having
them.
me, guys.
Yo, thank you. Drop them in the comments for either the YouTube upload or official Instagram post about this episode. If you like what you heard, we appreciate the rating, our rating on the podcast, however you're choosing. You can find us on Apple
the rating.
The rating.
We want the rating.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, and Castbox, which I'm learning today is still a thing.
Oh, really?
It's going to survive as long as TikTok does. I'm convinced.
Get another extension by the administration.
Exactly.